So my full name is Bini, Araia, and I have come from Africa, Eritrea. I have been in Teesside for probably just over 2 decades, and I have always lived in Middlesbrough, in Teesside area, though I have worked in other parts of the region and other parts of the country, but not settled anywhere else. I did not choose to come to Middlesbrough. I have come to the UK as a political refugee many years ago, but I was sent to Middlesbrough by the Home Office as part of their asylum dispersal system. But I had a choice to move elsewhere when I was granted refugee status, like many others of my friends have done so. But I was one of the people who chose Teesside to become their home, set a family, and I chose to stay here. I think, I presume, like anywhere else, if you are new to an area, there are bound to be some challenges, and I don't think Teesside is different from those. It's a new way of doing things, the medium of communication, the style of work, to the new way of living, from culture to jobs and how you compete for work, how you make your own contacts and networks, how you better understand the system around you and try to survive within that system. People would not know your country of origin, and you have to explain who you are, where you are from, and sometimes those could be a little bit draining, because how many times are you going to explain who you are and where you have come from and why you have come? Being from a refugee background, I suppose, also needs a little bit more explanation. So maybe that is a slightly different because of the not long history when I arrived of asylum seekers and refugees in the area. But also as a black person, not many people, say from the African origin, were residents, were in employment, were known to local neighborhoods at the time. And that is not to say either positive or negative about it, but it just, the history of it is not for as long as maybe Birmingham or London or other places, bigger cities, have experienced people from other cultures, or at least in larger numbers. So that on itself poses a bit of a challenge, because you have to try and explain who you are and why you are here and what made you to come here. So the same question that you are asking today has been asked for the last several years by different people. Some of it is just out of interest. Some of it leads to all sorts of conversations. And when you are in the midst of it, it can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. I have always done community initiatives for many years. And the International Center I'm connected to it in a way because I got married here 19 years ago. So I do know the place very well. But besides it, it has its own good reputation serving the local communities over the years. And when I saw it close it down because the previous management could not handle or sustain it, it was closed down by the local authority because it was handed back to the local authority. And it raised various concerns, because this is a place that has been serving the community for many years. And to have it closed, it is very, and it has its own advantage, being very central in a neighborhood where there is Black and ethnic minorities, 2 schools within a stone's throw away from it, and many local communities who have traditionally used it, for a place for social, for physical activities, for training, for all sorts of creche, child minding, and youth work, and you name it. So to have that closed down, it raised questions in my head, and I started making those conversations and into why and how it could be reopened with the local authority. It took much longer time than I thought, but eventually we are now have it transferred into the community interest company that I am a director of on a freehold basis. The next challenge is to try and fundraise for the redevelopment. It's not a new building, and it will need hundreds of thousands of money to redevelop it properly and to make it to its all the glory, in a way, make it fully used by the local community. So I don't know, yeah, it is half a success as far as I'm concerned, because to have it on freehold means the community owns it. But the full success would be once we attract the investment required and have those investment properly change the space into the spec that we are planning, then that would be the full success. I have done this community work for some time now. Whether I will continue to finish the project, leading the project, it's not a big factor. Anyone else can pick it up and finish the rest of the journey. But they would be in a good footing because they will have a building that is owned by the community, and then they could probably find it slightly easier to attract funds, attract investment, because no one would want to invest in a space when they know that there is a chance that you may be giving it back to the local authority. Teesside is a good place to live in. I admire nature and I like the outdoors. And Teesside does offer that within, because it is all about quality of life. You could live in metropolitan cities, and they may have their own advantage in terms of, job choices and businesses and that sort of thing. But the other side, which is, I think, is the most important, is about quality of life. Now, cost of living is cheaper here in terms of transport and that sort of thing. But also you have the magnificent outdoor spaces that you can go to, the seaside, the moors, within literally 15 to 20 minutes of a drive. And most of them are also accessible by public transport, train, not very expensive to get to them. So that is something that many of our community members may not think about when they're making choices of where they want to settle. Probably because they have not been there. They have only stayed during the shorter period of asylum in town centers. And I think the second point that I would say is that there is a desire to improve things. And I think you spearhead some of it in terms of culture. So things are changing for the better. There are individuals that are trying their best to ensure the next generation have a better experience than theirs. I think that's a point worth making. It's not that individuals who have settled here have folded up their hands and gave up for improvement. So things are happening. And I think the third point is that there are opportunities that may be very competitive. There are enterprise ideas. How do you translate those into your own success? Needs to proper consideration, but they are there. So you would have less competition for either a business idea or an enterprise here than it is in congregated or more dense towns, because you have more people with the same ideas. We have seen some of our Sub-Saharan African friends over the years who have set up care work agencies, and they have done really well for themselves and for their fellow community members, because they are creating hundreds of jobs. And that is worth celebrating, because those employments are real positive things. But if those individuals who set up the care work agencies have not been in the area, those jobs may not have been in place today. And there are people who are working in spaces where they could be considered as role models, because they are using their skills in the medical, engineering, social work. So for newcomers, I think there are evidence of that it can be done. It can be done with proper networking and education, and with a bit of support from individuals who have gone through the same place, through the same experience, and who are currently achieving what they needed to achieve in life.